I'm Larry Bughi. 2 years ago, I was a patient at the Cardiovascular Center at the St. Joseph's Medical Center in Bellingham, Washington. I grew up on a small farm in eastern Washington, and of course, when we weren't being forced to pull weeds or do farming activities, we'd love to tinker in the shop, taking things apart, putting them back together. And it didn't take me long as a car guide to discover Seattle International Raceway. And it wasn't that many years after I graduated from the U that I discovered sailing, and the mechanics of sailing and the physics of sailing really caught my heart, and have kept me here ever since. One of the great passions of my life is sharing the beautiful Northwest and the islands with other people, and it's just become a passion for my lifetime that I can still enjoy today, thanks to St. Joseph's. December 23rd, I was out doing some last-minute Christmas shopping, and just started feeling progressively worse and worse. I thought perhaps I was coming down with a bad cold or the flu, and abandoned shopping. I drove by the hospital and I thought, maybe I should just go to the emergency room, stop in. And I didn't. I drove home. By the time I got to my house 3 miles away, I turned around, drove back to the ER, and I walked in. The next instant, I was being wheeled off to the intensive care unit, plugged into all these monitors. And I just laid there in bed all night long, looking at the ceiling, wondering if my life had changed forever. I'll never forget when the doctor came in the next morning and he said, well, all your results are in and I've got good news and bad news. He said, the good news is you haven't had a heart attack, and I was greatly relieved. He said, well, the bad news is you have an aneurysm sitting right above your heart, and we're going to have to crack your chest to repair it. After my diagnosis, I did a fair amount of research to try and find what I thought was the best doctor to handle my problem, and I thought I located that doctor in Seattle and made an appointment, sent my charts down, got my affairs in order, expecting to go down to Seattle and perhaps be wheeled into surgery that day. And instead, just the opposite happened. I walked in, he didn't know who I was, hadn't read my chart, spent 15 minutes and said, come back in 6 months. It wasn't the answer I was looking for. I was having dinner with some friends of mine in Anacortes, and I was relating my experience of going to Seattle, and one of the people at dinner suggested I contact St. Joseph's, that they had had a wonderful experience there, recommended a physician. I called St. Joseph's the next day and got in that afternoon to see a cardiologist, and I was on the docket 3 weeks later for surgery. I'll never forget the day of surgery. I remember standing in the shower and thinking about my dad that had open heart surgery and my brothers that have had their surgeries, and now that was my turn. So by the time I arrived at the hospital, I was pretty nervous. I had been prepped for surgery, and Dr. Leone came in on his lunch break and we had a conversation about the surgery, and the next thing I knew, I was in ICU waking up and the surgery had been done. And the instant I opened my eyes, I had felt good again. I felt normal again. Even after that big surgery, I knew that I'd been repaired and I was okay. And it was such a wonderful feeling. I was discharged from St. Joseph's 4 days after my surgery, and over the next 6 weeks, gradually increased my activity level, starting to walk, starting back to yoga class, the things that I enjoyed doing. And 8 weeks after surgery, almost to the day, I was back teaching sailing again. Really the best part of that whole experience is to be able to enjoy life again, to really get everything, get 100% of the enjoyment of the things that I love to do with the people that I care about and that care about me. Time with friends and time with family, to enjoy what's important in life. And I think that's the best possible outcome any of us can hope for.